of our existence. Passion per se is the exaggeration of a need or sentiment. It is the excess and not in the cause. And such excess becomes evil when it results in some kind of evil. Um, okay, so we are talking about passions. So what happens? Then let's come back a little bit of our evolution. We are talking about progress. We are talking about the time has come, but let's talk about the time which passed, okay? Because we are all an evolution of the spiritual principle, okay? So we are all evolving and progressing from that. And we are the next step of the progress of the spiritual principle when it is in the animals. So when we are the spiritual principle is spiritual principle, it's in the animals. So we have some free will to decide certain things, but the spirit says that as animals we are ruled, or we are, let's say, guided by the instincts. So let's say we have some choices, but we have not all the choices. We have some choices which are basically linked to our material needs. So we can choose when to eat, we can choose when to sleep, we can choose when to run away, or when. So all of these choices are linked to our, let's say, survival, need of survival. Okay, when we move to our human as spirits, when we become spirits and we become humans, what we have as differently from the animals, we have our free will, we have our capacity to choose, our capacity to think, or to how can I say, to figure out things or to imagine. Imagination is a capacity of humankind because animals cannot imagine. So this we have consciousness about our existence, and therefore we can choose much more in a much bigger scale than what we did when as animals. When we do this, we end up facing our instincts, but we are also developing our consciousness about pleasure. We are how can I say, like a child with a new toy which is completely amazing. So, and therefore we end up not eating anymore just because we need to keep our body working. We eat because we want to have pleasure with that. So, and this is because this is about many things. Okay. As a consequence of this, we have a blend, a mixture of feelings, a mixture of intelligence. So we now have free will, but we are still ruled by instincts, which are self-protecting instincts, like and selfishness and pride is a kind of instinct of self-protection. So if you get a dog and the dog is eating something and we get closer to the dog and the dog and we put our hands on its food, so we know what happens, don't we? So the dog bites us because it's trying to protect what they have, because they don't have this feeling of sharing. They have the instinct, I need to protect my food, I need to protect what is good for my body. So this is material related. When we become spirits, we need to fight against that. And selfishness, we should fight against that. And we should learn something which is very important, which is love. Love is the sentiment which becomes present as humans, because it's our care for others. So we feel or we notice that we are together, we are linked, and we need to think about other people. We need to think about what I do and if I do harm to other people. So I cannot think about that if I keep myself selfish. I cannot be charitable, or I cannot be, how can I say, fraternal if I'm selfish. And this fraternity is what is present in the spiritual life, because the spiritual life is not influenced by the matter. I mean, in a bigger scale, when we are, let's say, purified or evolved. And that's what we need to know. We need to resist to this influence of matter to become more fraternal and to know how to live in a let's say in the spiritual life. So this is an exercise. So, and therefore we need to purify ourselves from selfishness, from pride, in order to visualize, in order to see what is in the future, what expects us in the spiritual world. So that's basically what the spirits are saying us very frequently in the spirits book. In the question 912, the Kardec asks, "What's the most effective means of fighting the predominance of the corporeal nature, which is our animal nature?" Let's say this way. They say practicing self-denial. And practicing self-denial is when we do that, we act like teachers, let's say this way. Why? Because the spirits say in the spirits book that selfishness, sometimes we are selfish because others are selfish with us. So we tend to fight something against the same thing. So this is, how can I say, a normal consequence of in our first stages in our human life, that to fight selfish against selfishness. Why? Because if someone is protecting what they own or what they have, and this person is not sharing with me, I need to care and do the same for me, because I will be without anything. But if I have an example coming from someone which is, let's say, practicing this self-denial, I learned that, okay, I don't need to be so selfish, because there are other people who think about me and who is also caring for me. So when we do that, we tend to disseminate, or we tend to spread this consciousness, and we act like teachers. That's what the spirits say to us. So in the future, in this regeneration world, or when we pass through this transformation, fraternity will be present, and selfishness will be reduced substantially. And therefore, what we'll be having is, I don't need to think so much about me. I don't need to think so much about getting food, or protecting my food, or protecting what is mine, because if I need something, I know that I can count on the other person to help me on that, and the other person will be like helping me in this sense. So this sentiment will be there. So, and if we want to get to this stage, we need to start practicing it now. Each one of us. We need to be agents of this transformation. We need to be agents of the transformation to the regeneration world. So this is what the spirits, they are saying. So we need to fight that. So, and therefore, when we do that, when we practice fraternity, when we practice solidarity, when we get rid of this selfishness and this pride, we'll be practicing the law of, justice, love, and solidarity and charity. Why? Because justice is protecting the rights of each one. So justice, if we are practicing the justice, we are thinking about others when we know our limits, and we don't harm other people, but we also help the other person, which is a love sentiment. And charity is a consequence of love. So it's love put in practice. So if we are fraternal, if we are practicing solidarity, we are practicing the law of justice, love, and charity. So as a consequence, or answering, going back to the first question, or after talking about all of this stuff, so we need to fight against our animal nature. We need to get closer to our spiritual nature. By doing that, we need to fight against selfishness, which is the greatest, let's say, villain of this, preventing us from progressing and to go faster in the direction of the regeneration world. I think that's what I would like to say.
Thank you, my friend. Yes, it's e- everything is on us. Everything it's based in our efforts, in our willpower to move on. But anyway, this is something we have to learn, and we have to stay connected. So thank you having a lot of friends here. Ruben de los Santos from Uruguay, thank you for joining us. Marco is still giving us a lot of insights. Thank you, Marco. And Miss Gibbons, uh, we are talking here about two different, let's say, stages or two different situations. One is the incarnated or material world. The other one, it is the spiritual world, the invisible world, so the world of spirits. It is correct to affirm that there is a identity between the incarnated and the discarnated being.
Okay, I'd like to have a clarification of the question, though, if I may. What are you saying? A spirit, an individual spirit, or are you relating to all the spirits, the
No,
incarnate
I'm
spirit?
saying what it is the common point in a spiritual and in a material world. What is the common point?
Okay, well, I think the common point is that either whether we are incarnate or discarnated, we are spirits. So that's the common denominator in everything, because we are spiritual beings living
That's it.
in an corporeal life. So there is no difference in that sense. And so basically, the way the Spirit teaches us is that we have three bodies. We have a physical body, that's the one we live in the world, in the material world, in the visible world. Then we have a spiritual body, which is a kind of covering for a spirit, because it's the only way that the spirit can can be manifest into a physical body is through the spiritual body. And then we have a spirit. I mean, this is very basic because we know there are many more bodies, the mental body, bio body, and all that. But this is basically, so when we are incarnated, we have a material body that we can manifest, we talk, we live in this world. So when we die, or better, when a physical body dies, it goes into, it decomposes. The part of the vital principle, which is what life is, returns to the natural source of the universe. The body is completely destroyed. The molecules are destroyed. And, whatever it goes to. And then we have the physical body that we live in the spiritual world. And this spiritual body, which actually has always been known. This is not something that comes with Spiritism, which is very, very important, because I think the only thing that we can with Spiritism is the logical explanation for this. But, in other cultures, it's called the astral body, it's called the cheese. In ancient Egypt, they had the ba and they had the ka. With the ka was what this spiritual body is, but also the spiritual body is matter in a different vibrating in a different level, but it's still matter. The only thing that is pure spirit is intelligent principle, which is very important to understand that. And of course, in Paul, in some Pauls, he also calls the spiritual body, which is that the body that is in sort of between the two ones. Of course, when we go to the spiritual world, we leave a spiritual physical body behind, and we go to the spirit, but we continue to be the same person because we are the same spirit. So what changes is what we learn here. So every time we are incarnated in this planet is a time for opportunity, for learning, for development, for growth, because there are things we can only learn here. And so that's why life on earth is like a school that we come to. And and it depends very much on what we do here, how much we work, because I think the term is school is very relevant, really, because it is a school. If we are in school, if we work hard, we have good marks, we go through, pass on, and we go through, and we get our diplomas and everything, and we have achievement, and it's the same thing in the physical way. So, but here we learn but spiritual things as well, and I think being mentioned by Rodrigo and Charles quite a lot, the question of learning charity, learning to live with each other, fraternity, because it's a survival. I think Rodrigo mentioned it. We cannot, human beings are gregarious. We need one another to survive. Of all the animals on earth, the human person is the one who depends on the mother for the longest time for their survival. And I think this goes as well because we learn from each other, we learn from one another. And I think this is an important thing to learn. I know I'm coming towards, and that is Elsa still to speak, but I just like to say, to read something that comes from, the chapter 18 of the Genesis. If you haven't read, please do. It's very eye-opening. There's lots to learn there. But I found that when he says here, the time has come, is a sign of times. It does not mean a disruption of the laws of nature, but their fulfillment. That everything in creation is in harmony. And I think this is important because sometimes people start talking about the end of the world. The world's going to end. It's going to be a lot of terrible things. It's going to great cataclysm, and they have been. Many people have died in the past. But and other animals as well have survived. Some have supplanted and overcome. Those who didn't have to, they've gone. But this is very important. There is going to be a total destruction. I think total destruction would only come by man himself, with the crazy weapons that we have created throughout that time in history. But with God, everything is harmony. So we're learning from one another. There is just another point as well that I want to conclude on, in that he says, everything progresses. It's the physical, there is a transformation of the elements, and morally is the purification of the spirits, with fraternity being the cornerstone of social order. And everything is founded on faith. That's the foundation of the future. Because he said, and faith in the fundamental principles that everyone can accept: God, the soul, and the future, and the progress of individuals in perpetuity, and the relationship between them. I think this is very important. So when all peoples are convinced that God is the same for all, that God is supremely just and good, and that everything that is evil comes from humans, and when they regard one another as children of the same Father and accept one another, all barriers, social class, religion, creed, color, everything will be relegated to the past, and this change is the maturity of humanity that's creating the social renewal. So every time we reincarnate on this world, we go back, we learn some things, and we become more mature, learn more. And it's this maturity of humanity that's calling for the change that is going through now. And I know that when you listen to news, when you talk about things, it's very easy to become very despondent. But I feel that important to say here that we have to have faith in the future, faith in ourselves, because we are the ones who are going to do it. It seems very crazy, some of the things we see nowadays. It's quite perplexing. A lot of imposition of people's truth on everything. And this is going to pass as well, because there is only one truth, and it's God's truth. And we are the children of God. And if we can learn to accept one another, that we're going to be not only a future, but a beautiful future and a great future. And it depends on us to create it. So that's all I have to say. Sorry, Elsa, I must have spoken a lot.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Wow.
It's giving me insights to my time now.
Good. Thank you, my dear. Thank you. My dear Elsa, can we say that respect among each other, it is the first step towards evolution?
Certainly, yes, because you only evolve when you have consideration for your life and the life of others. I can say that evolution is linked with education. Respect is associated directly as well with education. Charles mentioned in the beginning all virtues that leads us toward evolution. Clearly, Rodrigo strongly spoke about selfishness, and Silvia brought to us about the cultures understands. Everything we learn is here. Work hard, good marks, diplomas to achieve our understands. About the charity, fraternity, that is the only way. So in the book, Genesis, that I'm amazed every day that I read something, and especially, as I said, I invited you all to read this chapter, and Silvia invited as well, in order really to see how updated the spirits are, how updated Kardec is, and says the time comes, however, will not entail a partial change, a renewal limited to a certain area, people, or race. It will be a universal movement that will operate in the same of moral progress. It says as well in the number 17, fraternity must be the cornerstone of the new social order. Silvia mentioned as well. However, there can be no true, solid, and effective fraternity unless it rests upon an unshakable foundation. That foundation is faith, not faith in these or those particular dogmas, which change with the times and peoples who cast stones at one another. Because by anathematizing one another, they feed hostility, but faith in the fundamental principles that everyone can accept: God, the soul, the future. So, of course, the ongoing progress of individuals and the perpetuity of relationship among them can be really the position that I evolve, my evolution will be when the entire planet evolve together. I am a part of it. So in this phase that we are now, is like a samsara wheel. Come and go, and the planet is in the phase of transition. Transition for good, again, evolving from the trial and attunements to the world of regeneration. That is not like that. Is slowly as the beginning, as Charlie said, is slowly, 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 but at the end of the certain time, the results will be good. No more bad, ignorant spirits will incarnate in this planet. Only good ones, the masters that will help the entire humanity evolve. And of course, the ignorant ones, the bad ones, the murders, the selfishness, they will discarnate and reincarnate in another planet in the same level as our planet is now. So that is something that is very important because I am the change that I want the world be changed. So I start myself with education, learning about charity, but not the charity only material. But we spoke today with someone that I think was someone from Cyprus that they don't have material needs to give to people because people has everything. But what most important, give the charity, moral charity towards the ones in need, suffering because someone is in prison, someone is in hospital, that we can see with their eyes and ears properly to help other people in order to help myself. This is the moral education that we need the most in our days, especially politicians. But is the way that we have to have our world, the face that our world is. Thank you, Steven.
Thank my dear. Thank you. Right on time. Okay. Time has come. It is important. It is inevitable. Progress means always forward. We will never give a step back. And regardless our will or our wish, it's gonna happen. And according what Rodrigo said, you need to watch yourself. You need to watch your pride and your selfishness. Once we have these balanced and aligned with respect for anyone opinion, anyone choices, anyone way to say we will become more evolved, and then we are in a situation in which we will evolve. So thank you for inputs, my friends. Do you have anything to add? Do you want to add anything?
I would like to add something, Steven, that came to my mind now that in this time, more than ever, it's very important to be faithful. So that's what will differentiate us. So we need to be faithful. We need to have faith and trust God that nothing is done by chance. So everything is very well organized by the supreme and divine, like conscience, by the divine and supreme intelligence. So nothing is out of place. Everything is very well placed. And we need to trust God that everything will be just fine. Sometimes we need to, in order to have this transformation, we need to pass through something which sometimes is a little bit painful. Sometimes and there are some discomfort, but everything is for a good purpose, and everything is on the hands of God. So no other hands would be better than His ones to do that. So let's be faithful and trust Him, and do our part, our portion in this. But let's trust that He is watching everything, and nothing is, let's say, nothing is coming to an end. Everything is passing through a transformation. It's only that.
Okay, thank you. And as we said at the beginning, Charles, you have 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes to say something about the book Genesis, the last book from Kardec, which is completing on the 6th of January, 155 years.
Yes, 2 minutes is a little bit short, but okay, let's try to do. So it is the last book written by Kardec. It was not the last one he intended to write. He had other projects, of course, but the Genesis really is the book where we can see the essence of the thoughts of Allan Kardec. A big part of the book has been written by himself, and really it is where his ideas were most mature, most profound, more clear. He's coming back on some points he treated elsewhere in the codification, but with much more depth. For instance, the character of Spiritist revelations, the question of God, the role of the science, and then also all this communication he received with the help of the astronome Camille Flammarion about the creation of the solar system and so on. Then also all this spiritual genesis, amongst others, of course. The second part of the book is writing about miracles, so showing that the power of God is proven by the accomplishment of the natural laws and not by their suspension. In other terms, this means that the spiritist, as for the spiritist, the miracle do not exist. What we call miracle today is something that can be explained tomorrow. Kardec is also writing about the fluids. So he wanted to publish another book about magnetism, mesmerism, but did not succeed to do it. Nevertheless, when we want to understand a little bit about healing and all this phenomenology linked to the fluids, it is also one of the best sources. And then he's coming with these chapters about prediction. How can some person have the faculty to see what will happen in the near future? And also these sections that we commented today a little bit, very superficially, because it's also very deep, is the time has come. So all this is what you can find in this last book, the Genesis. It's maybe not the first one you should start with, because it's a little bit, how to say, as I tell, profound. But certainly, if you really want to know who was Kardec, up to which level his thoughts have gone, it is absolutely mandatory to read it as well.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you very much. So, everybody thinking on Kardec on Friday, 6th of Jan. So, let's go to our announcements here. Next week, our topic is the announcement of the Consoler. 11th of January, 9 p.m. Also, we will have a series of talk given by Charles about Gabriel Delany.
The first one was given by me.
Yeah, the first one, the first one was given by you. Then we're gonna have Alexandre Caldini, Caroline Correia, Daniel Assis, Faye, Flávio Zanetti, Humberto, Rafael Caldas, Roberto Watanabe, Shane Martini, Vanessa Celon. So the first episode is what it was already done. You can find these on Spiritist Society of Ireland YouTube or Buzz YouTube, Kardec Radio YouTube page as well, And this initiative from the SSL, Elsa, Spirit Center for Peace. What is SSL initiative?
Gircis Center for Peace and Paz.
Peace and Paz. Okay, great. So anyway, thank you very much for this. It's good to know all these good things about Gabriel Delan. So Guilherme Diaz it's working on the study of the book Nosso Lar every other Tuesday, and from 8 to 9 p.m. And Zoom is a closed group meeting, so the Zoom details it's on our screen. So please write it down in order to join this study. Also, Guilherme, Munir, and Charles every Saturday, 10:30 a.m. They are giving a study of the book Medium's Book. Also, is a closed group, so please write down the link in order to attend this study. Every other week, we have conversations on mediumship with Guilherme Caldas and Rafael Diaz at 8:30 p.m. And this is it from us today. Thank you very much, my friends. Thank you, Rodrigo. Once again, Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you, Sol, for your participation. He wants to say bye. See?
Of course.
He wants to say bye. Hello to everyone. So thank you very much. I'll see you next week at 9 p.m. London time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye. Hasta luego.